The crisp December air swept through Los Angeles as Justin Bieber stepped out of his custom Range Rover. The 30-year-old singer adjusted his oversized hoodie, momentarily shielding himself from the prying eyes of paparazzi that inevitably awaited him. Today wasn't about them. It was about what lay inside the nondescript white envelope that had arrived at his home 3 days ago. No return address, no explanation, just his name written in an elegant, flowing script that seemed hauntingly familiar. "You sure you don't want me to come with you?" Haley called from the passenger seat, concern etched across her face. Justin leaned down, offering his wife a reassuring smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "I've got this, whatever it is. I need to handle it myself." The invitation had been cryptic, December 17th. 4 p.m., the abandoned recording studio on Sunset where it all began. "Come alone." As Justin approached the weathered building, memories flooded back. This was where, at just 15 years old, he had recorded his breakthrough songs, where dreams became reality, where the trajectory of his life changed forever. Now, 15 years later, the once bustling studio stood empty, a relic of the music industry's evolution. Its faded facade bore little resemblance to the vibrant hub it once was. Taking a deep breath, Justin pushed open the heavy door. The familiar scent of dust mixed with old soundproofing hit him immediately. Someone had been here recently, though. A single path cleared through years of accumulated debris. At the end of the hallway, light spilled from beneath a door, Studio C, where he'd recorded Baby all those years ago. "Hello?" Justin called out, his voice echoing through the empty corridor. No response. With cautious steps, he approached the illuminated room, his heartbeat quickening with each stride. When he pushed open the door, the sight before him made him freeze. The studio looked exactly as it had 15 years ago. Equipment positioned precisely as he remembered. The same worn couch where he'd crashed during late-night sessions. Even the same inspirational posters on the walls. But it was what sat on the sound engineer's desk that drew his complete attention. A single white envelope, identical to the one that had summoned him here, placed beside an old CD player. A yellow post-it note attached to the CD player bore 5 simple words. "Listen." Before opening the envelope, Justin's finger hovered over the play button, a slight tremor betraying his nerves. Who had gone to such lengths to recreate this space? Who had access to these memories? Pressing play, he stepped back as the speakers crackled to life. The first few notes hit him like a physical force, a demo version of One Less Lonely Girl with his adolescent voice, raw and unpolished. But this wasn't just any demo. This was the very first take when his voice had cracked on the high note, the take that was never supposed to have been saved. "No way," Justin whispered, running a hand through his hair. The track shifted. Another, unheard recording. This time a conversation between teenage Justin and Usher, his mentor expressing doubts about whether he was ready for the spotlight. "The kid's talented, but fame this young, it destroys people, man. Are we doing the right thing?" Justin lowered himself onto the worn leather couch, transfixed. These were private moments, conversations never meant for public consumption. The recording continued, a montage of personal moments, arguments with management, tearful late-night phone calls with his mother, vulnerable confessions of fear and insecurity from a child thrust into adulthood. His throat tightened. Only a handful of people had access to these recordings: Scooter Braun, his former manager, Usher, a few select studio executives. As the recording played on, reaching a particularly painful moment when 16-year-old Justin had broken down after reading harsh comments online, he found himself transported back to that vulnerable place. The weight of those years, the scrutiny, the pressure, the constant judgment, came rushing back. The audio abruptly cut to silence. Then, a voice he hadn't heard in years filled the room. "Remember who you were before the world told you who to be." Scooter Braun, the man who discovered him on YouTube and built his career, the same man Justin had publicly severed ties with years ago during one of the most contentious music rights battles in industry history. The CD stopped playing, the mechanical click echoing in the silent room. Justin sat motionless, emotions warring within him: anger, nostalgia, confusion. His gaze shifted to the envelope waiting for him. With trembling fingers, he reached for it. The envelope was heavier than expected, its contents shifting slightly as Justin turned it over in his hands. No markings, just like the one that had arrived at his home. Sliding his finger beneath the seal, he opened it carefully, as if defusing a bomb. Inside was a stack of legal documents, and as he began to read the first page, his breath caught. These were the original contracts he had signed as a minor. Contracts that had defined the trajectory of his career and his life. Contracts that had been the source of bitter legal disputes for years. But something was different. Each document bore amendments, highlighted in yellow, with a signature line awaiting his name. Attached was a handwritten note. "The masters are yours, all of them. No strings attached, no publicity required, just your signature. And 15 years of battle ends today. SB." Justin flipped through the pages in disbelief. The documents appeared legitimate. His early recordings, his publishing rights, everything he had fought for years to reclaim control over. All being returned to him. It seemed impossible. Too good to be true. As he continued reading, he discovered something else tucked between the pages, a USB drive labeled "For Your Eyes Only," and another note: "What could have been yours all along?" Justin pulled out his phone, hesitating before making the call. "Hey, it's me," he said when his lawyer answered. "I need you to verify some documents. Right now. I'm sending photos." As he waited for his lawyer to review the images, Justin plugged the USB drive into the studio's computer, which hummed to life as if it had been prepared for precisely this moment. The drive contained a single video file. His cursor hovered over it momentarily before he clicked play. The video showed Scooter, brawn in his office, looking older and more tired than Justin remembered him. "Justin," the recorded Scooter began, "if you're watching this, you found the courage to come to the studio alone. Good. What I'm about to tell you has been 15 years in the making." Scooter's face filled the screen, his expression a complex mixture of regret and resolution. "I've rehearsed this speech 1,000 times," he began, rubbing his temple. "Back when you were 13, uploading those covers from your mom's computer, I saw something special. Not just talent, there's plenty of talent out there, but hunger, determination, the kind that changes history." He paused, seeming to gather his thoughts. "What I didn't see was how young you really were. None of us did. We saw a product, an opportunity, a phenomenon waiting to happen, and we were right, weren't we?" Justin leaned closer to the screen, transported back to those early days. The whirlwind of sudden fame, endless travel, the constant push for more content, more performances, more everything. Scooter continued, "The music industry isn't built for children. It's a machine that consumes people. Adult artists struggle with it, let alone kids, but we threw you into it anyway." The video cut to footage Justin had never seen, behind-the-scenes moments from his early tours. 16-year-old Justin arguing with staff about exhaustion. A moment when he thought cameras were off, curled up in a dressing room corner, clearly overwhelmed. His mother pleading with management for a break in his schedule. "What you don't know," Scooter's voice returned over the footage, "is that I tried to pause things. 3 times during your early career, I approached the label about giving you 6 months off. 3 times I was overruled." The video returned to Scooter's office. "The truth is, I failed you. Yes, I built your career, but I couldn't protect you from what came with it. And when things fell apart between us, when the battle for your masters began, that was the final failure." Justin's phone buzzed, a text from his lawyer. "Documents appear legitimate, but get everything verified before signing anything. Coming to you now." On screen, Scooter leaned forward. "Your music is yours, Justin. It always should have been. The contracts you received are real. No tricks, no publicity requirements, no strings attached. I've spent 3 years negotiating with every stakeholder to make this happen quietly." Justin paused the video, his mind racing. Why now? Why this elaborate setup? He pressed play again. You might be wondering why now, Scooter said, as if reading his thoughts. Last year I was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Justin's stomach dropped. Doctors gave me 6 months. That was 8 months ago. Scooter offered a small, defiant smile. I'm still here, but not for much longer, and I needed to make this right while I still could. The video showed Scooter standing, moving closer to the camera. In the envelope, there's one more document, different from the others. That one's your choice. So I hope you'll read it, but I'll understand if you don't. The screen went black. Video over. Justin sat in stunned silence, emotions crashing over him in waves. Anger, grief, confusion, vindication, all competing for dominance. He returned to the envelope, finding the final document Scooter had mentioned. As he began to read, his hands started to shake. The document wasn't legal in nature. It was a detailed plan for a foundation, the Early Start Initiative, focused on protecting young performers in the entertainment industry. The proposal outlined comprehensive protections, mandatory education requirements, financial guardianship systems, mental health support, scheduled career breaks, and strict limitations on working hours and media exposure for performers under 18. Each point addressed an issue Justin had personally faced. Each protection could have changed the course of his early career and his life. A highlighted section caught his eye. Initial funding, $30 million personally committed by Scooter Braun. Additional $20 million pledged by industry partners. Seeking matching donation and leadership involvement from Justin Bieber. No publicity. Requirements. Paperclipped to the proposal was a handwritten letter. Justin, this won't undo the past. Nothing can. But it might change the future for the next kid with a dream and a YouTube channel. When I saw your documentary and heard you speak about those dark years, I recognized my part in that darkness. The foundation is happening regardless of your involvement. The money is already in escrow. The partner's already committed. But it would mean something different with your voice behind it. Not as a face on a billboard or a name in a press release. I know how you value your privacy now. But as a guiding force, sharing your experience and wisdom with the architects of this change. If you choose not to engage, I understand completely. This isn't about my redemption. It's about preventing history from repeating itself. Scooter. Justin set the papers down, moved to the window, and looked out at the Los Angeles skyline as the afternoon sun painted the city gold. His thoughts tumbled over each other, memories of broken moments intertwined with the possibility of healing, not just his past, but the industry itself. His phone rang. Haley. How's it going? She asked, concern evident in her voice. It's complicated, Justin replied. I might be here longer than I thought. Do you need me? He paused, considering. Not yet, but soon. There's a lot to process. After ending the call, Justin returned to the studio console. There was one more track on the CD he hadn't played. He pressed the button, bracing himself for whatever came next. Instead of voices or music, the sound of a single heartbeat filled the room. Then another heartbeat, faster, smaller, joined the first. The second heartbeat belonged to an infant. Confused, Justin listened as a woman's voice and a doctor spoke over the heartbeats. There it is, Mr. Braun, your daughter's heartbeat, strong and healthy. The recording cut to Scooter's voice, thick with emotion. I became a father again. Last year, looking at my newborn daughter, I couldn't stop thinking about legacy. What am I leaving behind, not just for her, but for the world she'll grow up in? The sound faded out, leaving Justin alone with his thoughts in the increasingly shadowed studio. Outside the abandoned studio, the day was fading. Justin paced the length of the control room, phone pressed to his ear. Yes, I understand it's unusual, he said to his lawyer on the other end, but I need to know if he's telling the truth about his health. While waiting for that confirmation, Justin opened his laptop and began researching Scooter's recent public appearances. The man had indeed become increasingly scarce over the past year, with his last public sighting at a cancer research fundraiser 4 months ago. Photos showed a noticeably thinner version of his former manager. Justin's lawyer called back within the hour. It's true, he confirmed. His diagnosis isn't public knowledge, but I've confirmed it through 3 separate sources. And the foundation documents are legitimate. There's already significant money in escrow. Thanking him, Justin ended the call and sat heavily on the studio couch. The sun had nearly set, casting long shadows across the room that had witnessed the beginning of his career. He thought about the years of public feuding over his masters, the bitterness that had defined their relationship for so long. He thought about his own journey, the spectacular rise, the painful fall, the struggle to rebuild himself away from the spotlight, the peace he'd finally found. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Whatever you decide, the masters are yours. No conditions. SB." Justin stared at the message for a long moment. Then he began to type, deleted everything, started again, deleted again. What could he possibly say after all this time? Instead of responding, he called Haley again. "I need your perspective on something," he said when she answered. "I'm listening," she replied. For the next 20 minutes, Justin explained everything. The recordings, the contracts, the foundation proposal, Scooter's illness. Haley listened without interrupting, offering the measured understanding that had been his anchor through so many storms. When he finished, she was quiet for several heartbeats. "What do you feel pulled to do?" she finally asked. "Not what you think you should do, but what your heart is telling you." Justin gazed at the studio around him, this place of beginnings now possibly becoming a place of resolution. "I don't know if I'm ready to forgive him," he admitted, "but I keep thinking about that kid who might be out there right now, uploading covers and hoping to be discovered. If we had these protections in place back then maybe that's your answer," Haley said gently. "You don't have to forgive him to build something important from this moment." After they hung up, Justin read through the foundation proposal again, more carefully this time. The structure was thoughtful, the protections comprehensive. This wasn't a hastily assembled peace offering. It represented years of consideration. As midnight approached, Justin made a decision. He gathered the contracts for his masters and signed them, but left the foundation proposal unsigned. Instead, he took out a notepad and began writing his own letter. "Scooter, I'm signing for my masters. They're mine now, as they always should. Have been. As for the foundation, I need time, not to decide if it's worth doing, but to decide how I want to be involved." 1 week later, Justin stood in the hallway of Cedars Sinai Medical Center, gathering his courage. Haley squeezed his hand. "You're sure about this?" she asked. Justin nodded. "I need to do this face to face." When they entered the private room, Justin was struck by how diminished Scooter appeared. The once imposing figure of his former manager was propped up in the hospital bed, tethered to monitors and IVs. Despite his condition, Scooter's eyes were alert, widening slightly when he saw who had come to visit. "Justin," he said, his voice raspier than in the video but still recognizable. "I wasn't sure you'd come." "Neither was I," Justin admitted. Standing awkwardly at the foot of the bed, Haley hung back near the door, offering silent support while giving them space. An uncomfortable silence stretched between them, 15 years of history, brilliant successes and bitter conflicts hanging in the air. Finally, Justin pulled a folder from his bag. "I signed the master's contracts. My lawyers have already confirmed everything. It's done." Scooter nodded, a flicker of relief crossing his face. "Good, that's good." "I'm not here about the masters, though," Justin continued, pulling out the foundation proposal. "I'm here about this." Scooter's gaze intensified. "And?" "I have some changes." Justin handed over several pages of notes he'd made. "If I'm going to be involved, it needs to be more comprehensive. Mental health support isn't just a line item, it needs to be the foundation of everything. And there's nothing here about family support systems. The parents need guidance as much as the kids do." As Scooter looked through Justin's notes, the younger man continued, his voice growing stronger. "Most importantly, it can't just be about protection. It has to be about education, teaching these kids and their families how to navigate fame before they're drowning in it." For the first time, a genuine smile crossed Scooter's tired face. "Always improving on my ideas. Some things never change." "This isn't about you and me," Justin said firmly. "It's about them, the ones coming up now, the ones we don't even know about yet." Scooter set the papers down. You're right, completely right. The tension in the room shifted subtly, not disappearing but transforming into something more purposeful. For the next hour, they talked specifics, how the foundation would operate, who would lead different initiatives, how to ensure it remained focused on its mission rather than becoming another industry photo opportunity. As they wrapped up, Justin hesitated before asking the question that had been haunting him. Why didn't you tell me about your diagnosis? I mean, why the whole secret studio setup? Scooter looked out the window before answering. Would you have come if I'd just called, after everything? Justin didn't respond, which was answer enough. I didn't want your pity, Scooter continued, and I didn't want this to be about me dying. I wanted it to be about making something right while I still could. He paused. And maybe I wanted to see you in that studio one more time, where it all began. Justin nodded, understanding the sentiment even if he couldn't fully embrace it. As they prepared to leave, Scooter called out, Justin? He turned back. For whatever it's worth at this point, I'm sorry for all of it. Justin held his gaze for a long moment. No. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet, but it was acknowledgement of the apology, of their shared history, of the complicated reality they both inhabited. Outside in the corridor, Haley wrapped an arm around his waist. You okay? Justin took a deep breath. Yeah, I think I am. 3 months passed. Justin threw himself into developing the foundation, working remotely with a small team of industry veterans and child welfare experts. Though he hadn't publicly attached his name to the initiative, his influence shaped every aspect of its formation. Scooter's condition worsened, then stabilized, then worsened again, the cruel rhythm of his illness. They spoke weekly, sometimes about the foundation, sometimes about music, occasionally about the past. The conversations were never easy, but they were necessary. On a clear April morning, Justin received a call from Scooter's assistant. He's asking for you. The doctors say it might be time. Justin and Haley made the drive to the hospital in silence. In Scooter's room, machines beeped steadily, monitoring vital signs that grew weaker by the day. You came, Scooter said, his voice barely audible. Of course, Justin replied, pulling a chair closer to the bed. Scooter gestured weakly toward a bag beside his bed. There's an envelope for you. Inside was a USB drive and a note that simply read, for when you're ready to tell your story. No pressure ever, SB. What is it? Justin asked. Every recording, every video, everything from your early years, Scooter explained between labored breaths. Your documentary only scratched the surface. The full story is yours to tell. Or bury, your choice. Justin pocketed the drive, emotions churning. The foundation launches next month, he said, changing the subject. We've secured commitments from 3 major labels and 2 streaming platforms. A ghost of a smile crossed Scooter's face. Will you be there at the launch? Justin had been wrestling with this question for weeks. His instinct was to remain behind the scenes, to contribute without exposing himself to the spotlight that had burned him so badly in the past. I don't know, he answered honestly. Scooter nodded weakly. Whatever you decide, it's already more than I hoped for. They sat in companionable silence for a while, the only sounds the steady beep of monitors and the hum of hospital equipment. It's strange, Scooter eventually said, his voice dreamy, perhaps affected by medication. I spent my career discovering talent, building careers, but the legacy that matters most is how we shape lives, isn't it? Not record sales or streaming, numbers. Justin found himself nodding, understanding this truth in a way his younger self never could have. As they left, Scooter reached for Justin's hand, a gesture so unexpected that Justin hesitated before accepting it. Thank you, Scooter said simply, for giving an old mistake a chance at becoming something better. Driving home, Justin turned, the USB drive over in his hands, considering its contents, the unfiltered story of his formative years, the good, the bad, the ugly. What will you do with it? Haley asked. Justin gazed out at the California coastline. I don't know yet, but whatever I decide, it'll be my choice. For once, 2 weeks later, Justin stood backstage at the Beverly Hilton, listening to the murmur of the crowd in the ballroom. The foundation's launch event had drawn industry executives, child welfare advocates, and a carefully selected group of media representatives. Scooter had passed away 3 days earlier. The foundation, now named the Beginning Initiative, was being introduced by its executive director, a respected advocate for children in entertainment who had worked with numerous child stars over the decades. Justin remained hidden in the wings, still uncertain about stepping into the spotlight. The USB drive Scooter had given him weighed heavily in his pocket, both literally and metaphorically. His phone buzzed with a text from Patty, his mother. "So proud of you, whatever you decide. Love you." As the executive director concluded her introduction, an assistant appeared beside Justin with an envelope. "This was left for you to be delivered at this exact moment." The envelope was identical to the ones that had started this journey months ago. Inside was a single note in Scooter's handwriting. "Justin, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and you're at the launch event, trying to decide whether to step forward or stay in the shadows. Either choice is valid, but remember this, your voice has always been your most powerful instrument, not just when singing, but when speaking truth. Whatever you decide, I'm grateful our story found a better ending than I deserved. SB." Justin closed his eyes, memories cascading through his mind. The exhilaration of those early performances, the crushing weight of global fame, the dark periods, the rebuilding, and now this moment of potential transformation. He thought about the kids out there uploading videos, dreaming of discovery. Kids who had no idea how their lives might change overnight. Kids who deserved better protection than he had received. On stage, the executive director was wrapping up. "And now I'd like to introduce someone who has been instrumental in bringing this initiative to life, though he initially planned to remain behind the scenes." A questioning note entered her voice as she looked toward the wings, clearly uncertain whether Justin would actually appear. In that moment, Justin made his decision. He reached out, taking Haley's hand, and together they stepped onto the stage. The room fell silent, then erupted in surprised applause. No one had expected Justin Bieber, who had become increasingly private in recent years, to make a public appearance. At the podium, Justin took a moment to survey the room. Industry. Faces he recognized, some who had supported him, others who had profited from his struggles. "Thank you for that introduction," he began, his voice steady. "I wasn't planning to speak today. Many of you know I've chosen a more private life in recent years." He paused, gathering his thoughts. The Beginning Initiative exists because, too, many young performers enter this industry without protection. I was one of them. You've heard parts of my story before, but not all of it. Justin reached into his pocket, feeling the USB drive. "Recently, I received every recording, every behind-the-scenes moment from my early career. The complete, unfiltered story." A murmur ran through the crowd. "I could use that material to point fingers, to name names, to show exactly how a child becomes a cautionary tale in this industry." The room grew uncomfortably still. "But that's not why I'm here today. I'm here because we have a chance to change the story for the next generation of performers, to ensure that their talent doesn't come at the cost of their childhood, their mental health, their sense of self." As Justin outlined the foundation's initiatives, he felt something shifting within him, a sense of purpose that transcended his own journey. This wasn't about his past anymore. It was about a better future. "I never planned to be the face of this initiative," he concluded, "and I'm not standing here because I want back in the spotlight. I'm here because sometimes the most important thing you can do with your story is use it to change someone else's." As applause filled the room, Justin felt Haley squeeze his hand. He'd taken a step he never expected to take, back into the public eye, but on entirely his own terms. Backstage after the speech, an assistant handed him another envelope. This was in Mr. Braun's personal effects, with instructions to give it to you today. Alone in a quiet corner, Justin opened it to find a single sheet of paper, the deed to the abandoned recording studio where this journey had begun, now transferred to his name. Attached was a note with just 3 words, "Full circle, SB." 1 year later, Justin stood in the renovated Studio C, now the centerpiece of the Beginning Initiative's Los Angeles headquarters. What had once been an abandoned relic was now a vibrant space where young performers could create while also receiving education, mental health support, and legal guidance. The room that had witnessed the beginning of his career had been transformed into a place of new beginnings for others. Justin moved to the window, watching as a group of teenage performers arrived for a workshop. Bright-eyed, talented kids, with dreams as big as his had been. But unlike his experience, these young artists would have guardrails, protection, and advocates who understood the pitfalls of early fame. His phone buzzed with a notification. The documentary was launching. Today. After months of deliberation, Justin had decided to use the material Scooter had left him, not as a weapon, but as a teaching tool. The Price of Early Fame combined his never-before-seen footage with similar material from other child stars, creating a powerful educational resource for industry professionals, parents, and aspiring young performers. The documentary wasn't for public consumption. It would never appear on streaming platforms or in theaters. Instead, it would be used exclusively in the Beginning Initiative's educational programs. Haley entered the studio, joining him at the window. "They're ready for you downstairs." Justin nodded, taking one last look around Studio C, the place where, as a hopeful 13-year-old, he'd first stepped toward a destiny he couldn't possibly have understood. In the main presentation room downstairs, 30 young performers and their families waited, along with industry mentors who had committed to a new approach to developing young talent. As Justin entered, the room fell quiet. "Welcome to the first official mentorship program of the Beginning Initiative," he began. "Each of you is here because you have extraordinary talent, but talent isn't enough. Believe me, I know." He gestured to the space around them. "This building represents a journey that came full circle. My career began in Studio C upstairs, and now we're using this space to ensure your journeys look very different from mine." Justin moved among the young performers, speaking directly to them rather than from a podium. "The industry is still learning how to nurture talent without exploiting it. You're part of that change, not just as artists, but as pioneers of a healthier approach to early success." As the program commenced, Justin stepped back watching as industry veterans began working with the young performers in small groups. This was exactly what he had envisioned: practical protection, not just policies on paper. Later that evening, after everyone had gone, Justin returned to Studio C. The space was quiet now, but it hummed with potential, not just for music, but for transformation. On the sound engineer's desk sat a framed photo of 13-year-old Justin at his first recording session, his expression a mixture of excitement and trepidation. Beside it lay an envelope, the final one Scooter had left, with instructions for it to be delivered today. Justin opened it slowly, finding a single sheet of paper inside. It wasn't a letter this time, but a simple chart, a timeline of Justin's career with 2 lines traced across it. One line, labeled Career Success, peaked early and then fluctuated dramatically. The other, labeled Personal Well-Being, followed a nearly inverse pattern, starting high, plummeting during his peak fame years, and then gradually climbing again as his public presence decreased. At the bottom, Scooter had written, "The industry measures the wrong line. You figured that out. Make sure they do too." Justin folded the paper carefully and placed it back in the envelope. Walking to the center of the studio, he stood where he had stood 15 years ago, a child with a dream, unaware of the price that dream would demand. The circle was complete. The new beginning had arrived, and as he turned out the lights and closed the door behind him, Justin Bieber knew that the most meaningful chapter of his story wasn't about fame or music or public perception. It was about transformation, not just of himself, but of a system that had needed changing for far too long. Outside, the Los Angeles sunset painted the sky in brilliant hues of orange and pink, a fitting backdrop for an ending that was also a beginning. As Justin walked to his car, he passed a young girl sitting on a bench, singing softly while her mother recorded on a smartphone, perhaps dreaming of her own discovery, her own journey. Justin smiled at them both, a silent wish in his heart. that her path, if it led to fame, would be gentler than his had been. And for the first time in a very long time, he felt at peace with every chapter of his story, even the painful ones, because sometimes it's the hardest chapters that create the most meaningful legacy. Then,